Good morning. So this is kind of a confession. I had the area of Mesopotamia in a little bit of a wrong place. I mean, I can see that they call it the Fertile Crescent with the Tigris and the Euphrates, but I just had it at the wrong spot. Because when you zoom in, you can't really tell where it is until you zoom out. So Mesopotamia, which is Greek between two cities, between two rivers, so it's the Tigris and the Euphrates, and it's the Fertile Valley, or the Fertile Crescent, some people call it. And it's actually in Southwest Asia. Now, if you look at that one section of, it's almost like triangular slab of land that's connected to Asia, it's strongly connected to Asia, but on the other side it's connected to Egypt, and then there's the of course this is backwards to you, there's the Mediterranean, and then does the Indian Ocean come all the way up there? I'm not quite sure, but anyways, there's Yemen and something else at the bottom of this, and Saudi Arabia, this is modern day, and you have Egypt and Jordan and things like that. Not Egypt, Egypt's over there. Israel and Jordan and Palestine. And if you go a little further north into a little further north and west, you have, I think it's Syria, Iraq, and and Kuwait. So it's up there. Remember the battles and stuff that happened over the burning of the oil fields in Kuwait. So it's up in there, and that is where the city of was. I mean, it's still there, but it's not populated. But you can still see all the foundations and part of the ziggurat still standing. That goes back to, that city goes back to like 3000 BC. I think some people have been living there. I think that's what they said. And so I know this morning I was doing my scripture reading. I was like, and watching videos, like, do I have Mesopotamia in the right place? I know I have the picture in my mind clearly, but did I put it in the right place? I actually had it further down near Yemen, but it's actually up in Iraq and Kuwait and part of Syria. So that's where I believe Abraham is said to have come from, and that's where farming comes from. So the Bible takes place in that whole land, kind of like a triangular bit of land. It's near the Mediterranean and into Southwest Asia. But there's also a portion, the rest of that peninsula, or whatever they call it, it's also mentioned in the Bible. Actually, the story of Queen of Sheba. Well, Sheba was down near Yemen. So I used to get these ancient history and cultures. No, ancient history and civilization magazines and National Geographic, because I'm really into that sort of stuff. And of course, you don't get magazines anymore, or very rarely. But I found them on the internet, and their site looks really great. So I'm going to be visiting that a lot. But they had, like, Sheba in the area where Yemen is now, and then there's another country named in the Old Testament that's over there too. And then something like I had to look this up again. I don't recognize this word, but that's what they would call Saudi Arabia, I guess. Because I was looking, where were the Arabs living, and they were in that section. And the Arabs were not like, they say they're not one nation, they're just a bunch of different nations put together. So, but Arabs are mentioned in the Old Testament, so that's why I was getting into that. And Ur was actually a Sumerian city, so you hear about that in there as well. And Assyria, which you hear about in like the Old Testament and stuff, Assyria started as a city. I think it was a city that a lot of people say is named after one of the sons of Noah. But the Old Testament was actually written, according to this website, was written around 1450 or 1350 BC, when the city is actually like 2,000 years older than that, from carbon dating and stuff like that. So if you're a Bible fanatic, you're going to do the, oh yeah, that's the city of one of the sons of Noah, where actually the Assyrians had a god by that name, and they think that's where that city got named from. So it's kind of like, so this just proves that the Old Testament is written from word of mouth being passed on. And we don't know exactly when all this stuff was written, because the old records don't really last very long unless they're carved in stone. So it's kind of hard to date things. But anyway, Assyria actually became so powerful and so strong that it went all the way to part of Egypt at one time. It was a pretty big thing. So, and there are still Assyrians living. They don't have their own country anymore, but there are still tribes of Assyria around. But yeah, I just wanted to get on and say that. Yeah, I kind of had it in the wrong place. Now I've got it straightened out. Anyways, look it up. Yeah, look, just Google, where was Mesopotamia? There's a lot of information and photos and everything on YouTube, on actually the internet. So it's kind of interesting, and it's amazing how large it once was.